right, guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing our black cards. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, we'll also be posting red up on the same day. So by the time you're done, that will be up as well. Also, white, blue, and the introduction is already up. So make sure you guys check those out if you missed them. We're going to go ahead and start right away with Arrogant Outlaw. It is a 3/2 for 3 mana, 2 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So this is definitely rewarding you for playing it post-combat or draining them in some way. This is pretty fine. It is, you know, a filler creature on its own. A 3/2 for 3 mana is basically what we tend to see. The drain is a nice bonus, but like whether that's going to be impactful or not is pretty situational. So I'm not like inclined to give it a ton of a bonus, but like I think it's just a 2. Yeah, so it's a vampire, which could be relevant. Maybe vampire makes it a 2/5.
Yeah, black-red in original Innistrad was vampires, and same with shadows, so there's a pretty decent chance that's what we'll be seeing here. So yeah, I think there could be some synergy there, but it's probably just a 2 either way, I would say.
Okay, cool. We'll see how much synergy there is, whether that makes that into like a 2/5 or a 2, but for now we'll just leave it as a 2. I'll let you take this one.
Baneblade Scoundrel, 4 mana, 4/3 human rogue werewolf. Whenever it becomes blocked, each creature blocking it gets -1/-1 until end of turn with Daybound. And then if it transforms on the other side, the Nightbound side is Baneclaw Marauder, 5/4, same original clause. Whenever it becomes blocked, each creature blocking it gets -1/-1 until end of turn. But whenever a creature blocking Baneclaw Marauder dies, that creature's controller loses 1 life.
So on the front side for 4 mana, its stats are fine, and then it gets, you know, solid stats on the backside. I do like that neg 1 stops all of those pesky little tokens from blocking it. It just kills them outright. It also makes, you know, 3/2s, which there are quite a few in the format, not kill this, which is a nice bonus because it's not 1 damage like we typically see on this sort of effect. When a creature blocks this, deal 1 damage to it, which does the same thing by killing those little small creatures. But this is a little bit better because it actually makes it so it doesn't trade. It makes blocking very, very difficult sometimes for your opponent, depending on the type of deck that they have.
Yeah, I do really wish Wizards would stop doing this thing where they print keyword abilities without their keywords. I mean, this is just flanking.
Okay, yeah.
I just find that irritating, but regardless of that, I agree with you. The -1/-1, that was the reason flanking was so strong. That makes it really hard to block. Because double blocking, they both get -1/-1. Like,
and it makes it so like a lot of the, you know, 3/1s, 1/1s, they're all just dead now. 2/3s. This is going to be a big beater, and I think a 4/3 for 4 mana is actually it's, you know, quite a bit of power. I think actually from what we've seen so far. We haven't gone into green yet, but as far as white, blue so far, I mean that's pretty sizable attack.
Yeah, I mean white had exactly 1 card that had 4 power or more, which was the backside of a disturb card, and
it cost more than 4, right?
It would cost 6.
Yeah.
And that was a 4/4. Every single other white creature had 0 to 3 power.
Yep. So we like this card at, what do you think, in like a 3? I think the backside's a little bit better, but I mean, whether or not that actually happens, could be a 3/5.
Yeah, I think I think it's a 3, but you know that trigger is interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be this card's power is going to be dependent upon your opponent's deck, which is a bit weird. It's not like always going to be super good, and sometimes it'll just be insane. So, all right, moving on. We have the Bat Whisperer, a 4 mana, 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, and if opponent lost life this turn, make a 1/1 bat flying token. That's fine. We see the 4/2s for 4 often. Usually they like ETB kill something that's taken damage. This makes like a little puny flyer, which, you know, there is some token synergy, some sack synergy, so that's kind of neat. But I feel like a 1/1 flyer is not a ton of value for a 4/2 for 4.
No, I mean, a 5 mana for 1 reach creature that made a 2/2.
Yep.
was kind of similar. So
that costs
this
one
is
more.
cheaper.
Yeah.
This is cheaper. The token's worse, but the creature stats are a little better. Doesn't have keywords. So it's kind of comparable. The card's fine. I mean, we're starting to see this. If an opponent lost life this turn, seems to be a bit of a black theme.
I was cutting that card a lot, though. The 4-1 that you're talking about.
Yeah, I found times where I'd cut it. I'd found times where I would play it. Like, I don't think this card's great unless vampires is a big thing. And you obviously don't always get the token here, where you did there.
This, to me, feels 2-5-ish.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
I like the fact that you have the ability to sack something, which is a lot of the cards that we're seeing, like sack a thing, draw 3 cards, sack a thing. It's an added cost for mind control, whatever the case may be. So this little bat could be good, and also, 1/1 evasive creature is also just. I've definitely killed someone with a spirit token before, so you never know.
No, 1/1 flyer is a threat.
All right, Bladebrand. We have a 2-mana instant. Target creature gains death touch till end of turn. Draw a card. So I like this card in that, if you're blue-black and you have 1/3s, 2/5s, whatever those stupid fat butt dorks are, this is interesting. And it replaces itself, which is something that makes me a lot more inclined to do this. It's still, death touch. Cards like this are always super situational, leave you vulnerable to 2-for-1 if they do it in response to you casting this before it resolves. But another thing Death Touch is really cool for is double blocking situations. They double block to get a good trade on your, they block your 4/4 with 2 3/3s, thinking that they're going to just lose the 3/3. It ends up being a 2-for-1 because you redraw with this Death Touch card, right? So it's neat. It's going to depend upon your deck whether or not this is good. Yanks' blue-black controls with 2 creatures, probably less good. My deck, probably much better.
Yeah, Bladebrand's a Ravnica Allegiance reprint. It was pretty good in that set. Any sort of cantrip effect that can, trade, basically. Turn things that would bounce into killing their thing, or, I tend to actually like this card a lot. I played this card a lot in RNA draft.
Yeah, I have it at a 2/5. Giving things death touch is always cute in... It's a really flexible mechanic when your opponents don't see it coming, and I love that.
Yeah, what we haven't seen yet, and I'm trying to quickly take a look at, is if we have anything that, that
Goblin
pinks.
Arcanist?
Yep, yeah.
Those are good cards. That's a good combo. I love casting this on something like a Goblin Arsonist, because you're like, ha, gotcha, get your thing, and get your other big thing. And then it's like a big victory. I'm a big fan.
We do have one card that makes devil tokens that when they die, they deal damage to any target. So they kill something with Death Touch and then kill them with Death Touch again.
All right, fantastic. We are spending a lot of time on this card.
I know.
2/5?
Yep.
All right, great. Blood Pack, 3 mana. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. This is that Sign-In Blood? No, that's 2 damage gain 2. Was this? This is just a straight reprint?
This is Sign-In Blood, but Sign-In Blood was black.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Well, there was one that dealt 2 and gained 2 as well, which I thought maybe was the same name. What's that one? Also irrelevant. Wasting time.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Sorin's Thirst.
No, Sorin's Thirst didn't draw cards.
No, it didn't draw. I was just saying, like, I thought.
Oh.
Sign-In Blood was that one.
Sorin's Thirst deals 2, gains 2, but that costs black as well.
Yeah, I was just mixing up my names, that's all. All right, so this card I think is fine. I always like these sort of abilities. Oftentimes they cost 1 more. It's also instant speed. Instant speed removal or draw cards. 2 life is not like a bad thing to lose, I think. Your life is a resource. Draw cards. Be happy. Do stuff.
Yeah, you can target your opponent with this to kill them or to trigger the opponent lost life this turn, although you better be getting something good if you're doing it for that, to give them 2 cards.
Yeah, I've definitely killed people with this ability, for sure.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for that. Sometimes, like, if you're ahead in the game and you have other things to play, don't be in a rush to play this, because it could be relevant, but, like, as soon as you run out of cards, be happy to do it. I feel like this is like a 23rd playable card, but I'm pretty much running one of these in almost all of my black decks. Blue-black, sometimes maybe not, just because you might have access to more blue, better draw spells, but I think this is fine.
I guess I'm actually much higher on you this card. I can't imagine ever cutting this card.
I have it at a 3.
Okay. So it sounded like you're saying like the end of the deck playables. It sounded like you had it lower.
So I put it in that back end because I don't really want to run a ton of them.
Sure. Yeah.
So
okay, that's fair.
Do you agree with a 3?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the reason it's sort of on that back end is because if I'm looking for cuts, oftentimes that is sort of where I go towards, because there is better draw mechanics. If I have creatures that are reoccurring or doing some other stuff, it's always a fine card, but sometimes there's just better.
There is, though. I do think the blue card draw was pretty weak in this, from what we saw.
I agree. Actually, this is the least exciting blue draw I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
All right, bloodline culling. We've got an instant for colorless black. Choose one. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn, or creature tokens get -2/-2 until end of turn. Holy smokes, this card is fantastical. Shiminy Christmas.
This card's great.
This is going to fuck up so many token decks just as a side effect, and there's no downside of running it because it just eats the biggest freaking thing on the board.
Exactly.
For 3 mana.
I mean, there's a reason it's rare.
This is great. This is better than what we've seen another rare. I'll take this over a baneful, whatever that stupid card is, any day.
Yeah, the card's very good. I think I actually do think most of the time you're going to use the first part of this card, but getting the second part for free is fantastic.
I mean, this is the widest format I have seen in a very long time. The white and the black with all the zombies and the soldiers, there's a ton of things that are making things. It's going to kill the little bats. It's going to do a ton of work, I think. Again, and I agree, like, most often you're going to want to just kill one thing, but like, oftentimes when you see like the -2 or the 2 damage across the board things, it's like a risky thing because it just sometimes doesn't do a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And this is just super powerful. Seems insane. This is definitely premium removal, which is normally a 4, but this feels stronger to me. This is the best removal I've seen in a while. Super flexible.
Yeah, I'd still have it at a 4. We haven't gone through this colors that usually don't have a lot of tokens, so I think this isn't gonna be as wide as it seems from just going through white and white, blue with all the. In this set, blue has the decayed tokens, but I'm guessing we're not going to see a lot in red and green tokens.
Interesting. Well, it's okay to be wrong, Yanks. I'll forgive you. All right.
I am fairly often.
3/4 for 5. We have a Vampire Noble. It is a flyer. I like these stats for a flyer. It enters the battlefield. If an opponent lost life, each opponent discards a card. I like this. Also can't wait to cast it in 2HG. And Gavin Verhey with the raid. Thank you guys so very much for coming in. We are doing a set review for the new cards in regards to limited, rating them 1 to 5 on how we feel they will perform in the average limited deck, kind of a sealed draft mix, and then giving it like a bit of a split rating for highly synergistic cards. My viewers, click that link, go show Gavin some love, longtime Magic creator and personality who is now streaming quite often. So make sure you guys go show some love, some really awesome content over there. Okay, so Bloodline Collector, guys. We like the stats. I like the discard ability. You just play this post-combat and you're pretty happy. I like this card. So it's a relevant creature class. What are we thinking?
Yeah, 5 mana 3/4 flyer on its own is pretty good. Ability, this seems to be a theme, so I'm guessing it's not going to be too hard to trigger.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like this card. I think it's like a 3.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's like a 3 as well. I mean, it's a good curve topper for a black deck. I like the added, little bonus there. At 5 mana, you're still likely to get cards out of your opponent's hand at 5 or 6. And there's, a fair amount of like casting things out of your graveyard for flashback or for disturbed, which is going to keep cards in your opponent's hand even longer. So it's less of a downside than it is in a typical set as well. So yeah, I like it at a 3. All right. We have the Champion of the Parish, which is a cute little throwback. It's a 1 mana 1/1 zombie creature, relevant creature type. When another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of the Perished. Anything that recurs a lot of zombies is going to be cute. There are a few zombie creatures that we saw in blue. There'll definitely be a fair amount in black. And then again, your counter spells have zombie creation. There are things that say anytime you don't have a zombie, whatever car token, create another one. What is it called?
Decayed token.
Decayed token. Whenever you create, if you don't have a non-block token, create another one. And this is going to get bigger and bigger and scarier. Obviously, it's going to be a highly synergistic deck, so not every black deck is going to want to run this, but it's super fun. It's a great build around. It can be insane and limited.
Yeah, you need to have enough stuff to trigger this, but honestly, it's a 1-drop. If you're making this a 3/3, you're pretty happy. If
you're making it just a 2/2, but you have other zombie synergies, possibly like return a zombie from the graveyard or whatever the case may be, it could be not that you're necessarily piling on a lot of counters to this, but this could also just be a cheap enabler for some of your other zombie stuffs. And there's a zombie lord, so it could get a nice buff. So yeah, a lot to work with here. 3 in the average deck?
Yeah, I think so. And a 5 for the name.
Yes, the name is great. Chef's kiss for sure. Pretty happy to see something like that. All right. Yep. Go ahead.
Next up, we have Covert Cut Purse, 2 and a black for a 2/1 human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, destroy a target creature you don't control that was dealt damage this turn. Has Disturb, 4 and a black. You get Covetous Geist out of the yard, a 2/2 flying death toucher with the standard Disturb clause of exiling it if it would go to the graveyard. So we see these, the front side of this card, Covert Cut Purse, we see these cards almost every set now. It was Manticore last set.
Well, Manticore had Flash, but there are some that haven't in the past. So it makes attacking with 1/3s a little bit scarier. So the nice thing is that the lack of Flash makes combat a little bit easier for us. But honestly, it's got a good rate. 3 mana, 2/1 that's like likely killing a thing is fine. And then a 2/2 flyer with Death Touch for, albeit 5 mana is a bit high, but there's a lot of like 4/4 and 3/4 flyers. There's a surprisingly high number of 3/4 flyers, which we've seen in past Innistrad sets. So like this will be a really nice 2-for-1 in most situations.
Yeah, agreed. Obviously the cards of this type that have Flash are better because you can use them on their turn as well.
Yeah.
Makes their attacks much riskier, but you still generally are able to find ways to take advantage of this.
Definitely. What are we thinking rating wise?
It's like a 2/5.
I'm a bit higher on it. I think I'll put it down as a 3. I think it won't be hard to get a 2-for-1 out of this. The other thing is also Spirit type on the backside and a human rogue on the front side. So like 2 relevant creature types. So likely to fall in some sort of synergy depending on your other color. I'm pretty happy. All right, Crawl from the Cellar, a 1 mana sorcery spell. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 zombie you control with flashback. So this is card advantage. Whether the +1/+1 is relevant, will depend on your board state. But like over a couple of turns, you're getting 2 creatures back. A bit more expensive than we typically see, though, right?
Yeah, your basic Raise Dead effect on the front side with the counter is nice. But the fact that this is a built-in 2-for-1, even if it's expensive, makes it pretty decent.
Yeah, I'm usually happy to have these, but like a lot of that's going to depend on the quality of your creatures, right? The value of these go up the higher your creatures are. If I'm spending 5 mana to get back like 2 2/2s, But other than that, I'm likely to find something I'm excited to get back, especially late in the game.
Agreed.
All right. What do you think? A 3 for it?
I think I have it as a 2/5. It is just kind of slow and just costs you, the fact that it's 1 is cheap is nice, but you don't want to play this card early. So the fact that it's 1 isn't that big of a deal.
It does help you also trigger like your day-night stuffs.
Yep.
Which is cute.
Yeah, yes and no, right? Because I've said this before too. On that helps you trigger. That's nice. Sometimes you don't want to.
That's true.
Sometimes that's a bad thing.
Well, I don't think that, like, if it cost more, that's not necessarily like, yeah, if you don't want to, you're just not casting anything, so mana cost is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Curse of Leeches. So this is the Black Cycle Rare Curse, which we think there's 4 of. 3 mana, enchant a player. As this permanent transforms into Curse of Leeches, attach it to a player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, they lose a life and you gain a life. It's daybound. At nightbound, it's a lifelink nightbound 4/4. So then it jumps back to your side of the table.
Yep.
Interesting.
Because even when it's enchanted to them, you're still controlling it.
Yeah. Yeah, you still control it for sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's still super annoying, like when it's a curse.
I think this card's great.
Yeah, this seems cool.
You know, that curse on its own is kind of whatever, like it could be relevant, but a lot of times it's just not going to do enough.
And sometimes it's just a 4/4 for 3 with lifelink. I love it.
Yeah.
This is the better of the curses so far.
Oh, by far.
Yeah. What is this? A 3/5 or a 4?
I think it's a 4. Just the fact that sometimes you're going to get a 3 mana 4/4 lifelink.
Yeah.
And then you're not that upset if it flips back because it's pretty easy to transform it again.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Moving on. Destroy target creature without flying. So this is the opposite of what we typically see, like with plummet and stuff. Usually we don't see this side of it, but sometimes we do. Instant speed, 3 mana. I think this card's great.
Card's great, and another one which I give an A+ to the name.
Go ahead.
For anybody that is a European history nerd, the defenestration of Prague was a major event in European history, where it was literally diplomats that got thrown out of the window of a tower.
Yeah, I'm trying to see the art here. Are there? At first, I thought it was someone carrying a person, but that's just the cloak. So the person is being thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So the defenestration of Prague was diplomats being thrown out the window, and in their case, landing in a pile of poop. I don't know if that's a necessity to be defenestrated, but...
Was the poop put there on purpose beforehand?
I think the poop was there on purpose. I don't know if the person throwing out the window knew that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think this card is good. It's instant speed for 3 mana. I'm pretty happy with it. It is a little bit restrictive, and we are seeing a lot more 3/4 and 4/4 flyers than we typically do in, all 3 colors that we've seen. So a bit more restrictive, but also this would be really powerful in any set that was not. This would be overly powerful in any set that wasn't this. So I think that that's fine.
Agreed. Yeah, I think this card's nice, efficient removal spell.
What are you thinking rating-wise?
It's a 3/5 just because there are great things it can't hit.
Yeah, I think, likely if your opponent is green, this is going to be just a home run.
Yeah, for sure.
If your opponent is in blue-white flyers, you're going to be a sad panda. But that's fine. All right, a 5 mana 4/3 zombie. So we have some relevant creature types. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 decayed zombie tokens. When you do, exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. So you can get rid of all of their disturb and flashback cards. That alone is a pretty spicy ability.
Yeah, and you get to trigger your champion to the parish 3 times.
That's true. Ooh. Ah. Yeah, I like getting to, this remove stuff from graveyard is going to be very, very key in this format compared to any other limited format that we've really seen, because there are so many cards that are working with your graveyard. There's going to be a lot of decks that are going to want to put stuff in their graveyard so they can recast it as basically a card draw, as a form of card draw. So this is going to negate all of those things. It's also going to make a lot of more aggressive decks, like, you know, let's say like Boros aggro, when you have all those like little white dudes that then come back with Disturb, you're going to be able to just kind of cut them off at the knees. You survive that initial aggressive thing, and then they run out of steam and they don't have those cards in their graveyard to draw on. So I like this card a lot, actually. Keep in mind, the zombies cannot block. 3? 3/5?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a 3.
It's a 3 with some upside based on zombie synergy, because 3 zombies ETB is kind of nuts.
Yeah, I mean, there are also times where this is a 5-mana 3/4 because your tokens don't do anything.
Yeah, I feel like if you get one card with Flashback or Disturbed too, it's going to be a huge spike in power. That's a nice bonus.
It is, for sure.
All right, we have a 6-mana 6/6 Demon Dog. Oh, who's a good boy? Dreadhound. This demon dog, when Dreadhound enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. So that's fine. You're going to want to be doing this with your Disturb cards. When it dies, if a creature card is put into a graveyard from library, whenever a creature dies, or a creature is put into a graveyard from the library, each opponent loses a life. So, okay, so self-mill, you're going to be pinging them whenever a creature dies. So any creature, including theirs. This is just putting a huge clock on your opponent. What the heck are you even going to do about this if you can't remove it? And it's 6 mana, or sorry, 6 power and toughness. It's going to be hard to remove.
Yeah, you need to kill this thing right away.
Yeah. I've seen this before in... this doesn't have the continued self-mill mechanic that the Knight did from Eldraine, but it reminds me of a very similar thing where it was like pay 2 mana, each person mills a card, and if a creature is put into a graveyard, your opponent loses life, right? So it's a similar effect to this, and if we're running like those blue spells that were letting you basically surveil a bunch, putting your Disturb cards into your graveyard, they take life, you recast them, it dies, they take more life, and then like you're getting just a lot of value off of this. This is a great curve topper.
Yeah, you're probably getting that, you know, odds are you're getting a point or so on the initial ETB.
Plus, you get to possibly redraw those cards or flash them back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like this card.
Again, I like this card a lot. There are, like we said, for some of the blue cards, right, there's a limit to the number of 5, 6, 7 drops you can play. But this is a pretty good one.
I think this is one of the better ones we've seen. You know, that's not like a giant flyer of some craziness. At Uncommon, I think this is going to be one of the most common top end or top quality ones that isn't like some sort of mythic or whatever.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like this card. 3/5.
3/5. Yep.
I don't think it'll be hard to get some good synergy out of this card. For the people rating us from Ali Eldrazi's channel, welcome. We are doing a limited set review 1 to 5. These will be on YouTube if you missed the introduction or the previous colors. We'll be doing the rest of them tomorrow. All of them will be on YouTube. They'll also be in article form on coolstuff.com. All right, moving on. Duress. This is, you know, something we're all pretty familiar with. I never like these sort of things in limited. I know some people do. I think they're a great sideboard card, but for the most part, whiffing on these or drawing them late in the game is just such a feel bad. I cannot manage it.
Nope, here's where we save time. Cards been printed a million times has never been a good limited card.
Yay! Moving on. Great. We have 700 viewers who are watching us rate these cards. Huzzah! Eaten Alive. We have a 1-mana sorcery spell as additional cost to cast this. Sacrifice a creature or pay 3. This is just Bone Splinters, right? But it exiles.
1 more, and it costs 1 more, right? To pay 3 in a black.
I thought that's what it was before. Was it 2 in a black?
Maybe I'm wrong. Let me look. No, Bone Splinters doesn't let you so you're thinking of a different card, and so my Bone Splinters requires you to sacrifice a creature.
Okay.
It was a I can't remember the name of the card. It was very similar once from War of the Spark. Is it Spark Harvest?
Spark Harvest. There we go. James in the chat knows the card. Is playing the good Pictionary, the NerdGirl Pictionary game. Good job.
So yeah, it's the same but exile.
Eaten Alive, guys. So sorcery speed. Always kind of meh for removal, but fine. I like that the sack a creature clause is pretty minor in that this is the set to be sacrificing your creatures, because most of them, you know, make new creatures or do new things or come back from the graveyard or generate more tokens. So that's kind of minor in this particular format, but it does exile, which is pretty spicy. It's going to stop their disturb cards from coming back. It's going to, you know, we just saw a black return from the graveyard to your hand type of an effect. There was one in white that brings cards back. So I think this is an overall fine card. It's not going to be black's premium removal, but definitely removal I'm happy to play.
Yeah, no question.
If you're casting it for 5, it's still fine. I mean, it's better, probably.
Yeah, I'd play 3 black, exile creature, or planeswalker. I'd play multiple of those, and
Most
having
definitely.
the flexibility to do it for black and a token. I'm all for that.
So 3/5 only because it's not their premium removal, but I think this is fantastic. I'm still playing a few of these.
Agreed.
All right, I'll let you take this one.
Ecstatic Awakener, black for a 1/1 human wizard. Pay 2 and a black, sacrifice another creature, draw a card, then transform Ecstatic Awakener. Activate this only once each turn, and it transforms into just a vanilla 4/4 demon.
With some pretty sick art. So 1 mana, 1/1 is fine. Sacrifice another creature, but you get to draw a card to like kind of mitigate that cost, but it does require you to do the thing, so you just can't like make a 4/4 immediately, unless you just play a 2-drop, and then on turn 3 you do this, which is kind of cute. But and it doesn't cost you anything because you got to replace that 2-drop essentially.
Yeah, I guess that's your ideal. Either that or sacrificing, you know, playing a 1-drop like an eye twitch or something like that gives you something. In constructed, at least here, we haven't seen anything that works like that.
Yeah, it's basically neutral on cards, right? Because it itself turns into the thing, and then the card that you sack replaces itself. It's pretty aggressive and interesting. I'm wondering also anytime like the Ponyta card that we just saw, or the dog demon, when a card dies, you're doing a thing, so you get a little bit more bonus there. Having creatures in your graveyard could be useful. Sacrificing a card that has disturb could be really useful. So I like this card a fair amount. It's going to be good with synergy, not good in more control-y creature-light decks. Also good with tokens, zombie tokens.
It's also nice. It's instant speed, so you can use this to blank removal.
That's true, most certainly. What are we thinking score-wise?
I'm still kind of medium on this card. I think it's like a 2/5.
Okay, I have it at a 2/5 or a 3. I feel like in the right deck it'll be pretty strong, and then I think it's gonna depend on the quality of cards you have to sacrifice. If you're sacrificing things that are free tokens and things, then it's gonna be really nice. All right, Foul Play, 2 mana sorcery, destroy target creature with power 2 or less. Investigate. This is fine. I like this.
Yeah, I'm okay with this card. It's going to probably trade, even on mana most of the time?
Even on mana, but replaces itself. And you know, even if you're not hitting a good target, that's okay.
Yeah.
Normally when I have these sorts of abilities, like, it's kind of got to be 3 power or less, or 3 CMC or less for you to like kind of start getting stuff that's relevant, because most of the time you're blanking their 2-drops with your 3-drop anyway, so minimal relevance. But the clue token makes it great.
Yeah, and you occasionally find some high impact cards that are low power, but their impact is in their ability, something like the Puppet Master, which is a 2/3.
True. Most definitely.
So you do actually occasionally, even though it's power 2 or less, can snipe some bombs with this card, but you don't have to. Like you said, if you just trade even on mana and get a clue to replace it, you're pretty happy.
Someone's asking if transform makes removal fizzle. Like a blink, it does not. The creature never leaves play, it just transforms, like a shapeshift ability, so it's still going to get hit with whatever. A phase out or blink would, though. All right, moving on. Ghoulish Procession. It is an enchantment for 2 mana. Whenever one or more non-token creatures die, create a 2/2 zombie with decayed. This ability triggers only once per turn. So like you can't be doing like a big board clear and getting all your dudes back and they get nothing, right? Now it does say one or more non-token creatures dies. It doesn't say that you control. So you attack, they block, great. you know, 1-for-1, you get a zombie. Then it's their turn, you remove their thing, great, you get a zombie. And so like it kind of just lets you keep your board nice and full, gives you great sacrifice outlets. This is going to be a highly synergistic deck based on your like removal count and creature count. If you're having a lot of spells that are producing tokens, this is going to go way down in value, but I think this is playable. It's kind of like a split rating. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's playable. I think I'm getting very curious the more we go through the set just to see the impact of these decayed tokens, because they do seem to be everywhere.
I agree with that. What do you think rating-wise?
I've got this at like a 2.5.
Okay, I like that. It kind of hedges the bets a little bit. I feel like it's like unplayable, but in a slim amount of decks. And some decks will really want this, but like 2.5, most likely it's just going to be fine in any deck. Yeah,
I agree.
All right, I'll let you take this one.
Gisa, Glorious Resurrector, 2 black for a 4/4 legendary human wizard. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gisa onto the battlefield under your control. They gain decayed. So this is the first instance we've seen of something other than these zombie tokens having decayed.
Yes.
It's an interesting card, right? 4 mana 4/4, fine stats on its own.
Yeah.
Relevant creature type in human, although not as relevant in black. Exiling creatures sounds really good, especially with all the disturb stuff. But they then come back as decayed creatures, and then once those die, they go right back to the graveyard.
Yes, that is a bit of a weird interaction. I feel like they didn't necessarily need that, but it's fine. They gain decayed, so it's kind of cute. Decayed can't block, so you want to be a little bit more aggressive with these tokens. Hopefully those tokens are then trading, or you're just keeping it out of their graveyard. If you kill their disturbed card, it goes to you, and then they can't disturb it back. That's great.
Yeah, you can just leave it there on your battlefield and force them to spend a removal spell on it to get it back. However, they can bounce it back to their hand, which is unfortunate.
That's true. Yeah, bounce spells become stronger against this because bounce spells can't get your creatures back once they're removed. So this time they can. That's kind of interesting. But also you could just attack them, hit them for 5, and then it goes into their graveyard, which is the same thing. So if you're worried about them having bounce spells, just attack them. Call it a day. What do we like for this this spell?
I think this card's like a 3/5. I mean, I focused a lot on the downsides of that last ability, but that's still really powerful to get all their stuff. They don't become 2/2s. They stay as whatever they are. They just have decayed.
Yeah, I actually like this card a lot more than you. I think this is getting close to bomb territory. If you have any amount of removal, like you just get their biggest things and you hit them with them. Seems good.
Yeah, it may just be better than I think it is.
Especially if you have any sort of like, if you're not behind and then the attacking with them plus other things is putting good pressure on the board. It feels good. If you have any sack outlets that's like drawing you cards off of them, you know, you get to remove their card, then sack their creature to draw 3 cards or whatever the case may be. It feels really good.
Yeah, I need to also look up the rules
ETB
on
effects?
the rules on replacement effects for the disturbed spirits, because there's 2 different effects that would exile them. I forget. I believe they get to choose, so I believe they would just get perma-exiled. But I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, ETB effects on this is also going to be pretty spicy.
That is true. Yeah, getting their ETB effects probably does just bump this up to at least a 4.
I have it at like a 4/5. Like, I haven't been super impressed by any of the bombs that we've seen so far. It doesn't seem like a super heavy, crazy bajillion dragon format like we've seen in the past. So something like this, it's grindy and a ton of value.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We have the Graveyard Trespasser, 3 mana, 3/3. Good stats. War, discard a card, guaranteed 2-for-1. Love it. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled this way, each opponent loses 1 life. Whew. Daybound. All right, this card is great, even if the other side is a do-nothing 0/1. I love this card. 3 mana, 3/3. That's removing their disturb cards. That's screwing with their flashback cards, draining them when they do it, I'm in. Let's check out this backside. The Graveyard Glutton. Ooh, creepy. Also, ward, discard 2 for 1, automatic. It turns into a 4/4, then when it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. For each creature card exiled this way, an opponent loses a life, you gain a life with Nightbound. So very similar, but you can exile more cards. Great stats, great 2 for 1 ability. There's nothing not to like about this card. It's well-rounded, it's perfect.
Yeah, it just nukes their graveyard.
And you get a huge beater for a good rate.
Yeah, the card's very good.
Jiminy Christmas, this is one of my favorite creatures so far in all 3 colors. Yeah,
no question. And sometimes you're not even going to have to deal with the first half, and you're just going to get a 3-mana 4/4 if it's already night.
That just 2 for 1s them if they deal with it. Yeah. So good. All right, guys. I think this is like a 4. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's a 4.
All right, moving right along, we have the Heirloom Mirror, 2 mana artifact, pay 1 mana, tap, pay a life, discard a card, draw a card, mill a card, then put a ritual counter on the Heirloom Mirror. Then, if it has 3 or more counters on it, remove them, transform, activate only as a sorcery. So then we transform, and we have a flying 4/4, exile target creature from a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on this. So you can exile from their graveyard, from a graveyard. So you get to, again, remove those stinking disturb cards to prevent them from getting any card advantage or card value out of that, which is nice. Love it. And it's a great beater. Takes a couple of turns to do it, though, and it doesn't transform back like the other ones do, like the blue one. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah, this card's good. The only thing not to like about this card is that you can only activate the mirror as a sorcery.
But it's only 1 mana, so I feel like that downside is pretty minor.
Agreed. Yeah. It's not bad at all. It is slow.
It does take a couple of turns, but you're getting, like, you draw a card, mill a card. You know, you're doing some stuff. You're looting, essentially.
Yeah. I like this card. There are going to be decks where this is very bad against, right? Like those red-white aggressive decks.
Agreed.
Not only is it slow and not doing anything, but you're paying life.
Yes.
Which you don't want to be doing against them.
I feel
that being said, it's pretty powerful.
It's good enough that I'm still probably playing it in most decks, and then it is just, I'm fine with it being a dead card against those hyper-aggressive decks, and then we just board it out if that's the case. A lot of times with this sort of mechanic, like, we're thinking, like, okay, we'll just board it in if it's a long game. But I think this is probably good enough to where I'm fine with it, because that backside, it has some really good value.
Agreed.
It's going to get
love the
bigger.
The Beetlejuice theme here. Speak my name thrice and be rewarded.
Wow. That's funny. I didn't even read that. Well done, young fool. Well done. Now for your reward. Love it. I like this card. I mean, it's not amazing. It's only an uncommon, but I think I'm still playing this in most decks. So 3?
Yep. That's right where I've got it.
All right. Hobbling Zombie. 3 mana, 2/2 with Death Touch. When it dies, create a 2/2 decayed zombie. This is great.
Yep. 3 mana 2/2 Death Touchers get played anyway.
Yep, definitely. And then it just makes another dude that, like, maybe gives you some sack outlet stuff. Maybe hits them. Doesn't block.
Yep, good card, like a 2/5.
Yep. Yeah, 2/5/3 depends on the rest of the set.
Yeah.
I feel like the set is small enough to where Death Touch is maybe a little less relevant than we've seen in the past, but usually 3 mana 2/2s with Death Touch are always fine. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life, 2 mana at instant speed. Wait, what?
Yeah, you read that right.
Huh?
This card's great.
So we usually give premium removal a 4, but that just feels weird here. Because, yeah, it's not winning the game on its own, which is what 4.5 or 5 gives you. But, like, this is so much better than what we typically see, even in the premium removal spot. Like, what do we even do with this? This is absurd. Where's the rest of the text? Did they forget it? Where's the sack a creature?
Yeah, I mean, just remember, like, Feed the Swarm from a couple sets ago, right? That was 2 mana, it could cost you more life, and it was a sorcery.
The power creep is real, ladies and gentlemen. Holy smokes. And yeah. It's funny that we're getting better removal for white, for black, than we've seen in a long time, but like the creatures seem a lot less dragon scary to me. So it's super weird that we're getting so much more removal and like what seems to be underpowered creatures for like what we've seen in some of the more recent sets.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that has to do with, right, that so many of them generate value on death or on disturb. So not only can they be less powerful at the start, the removal's also worse because it only deals with half a card.
Also, you can have more powerful removal if most of the set is go wide. When this is one of the most wide sets we've seen in a long time, having a removal that's just beyond godlike is going to be less impactful on the board state when the creatures are all smaller power level and much wider spread across the board. This is just going to be so much less harmful to an opponent, right?
Yep.
Interesting. That's very cool. I mean, this is clearly just a 4, but moving on. Jadar the Ghoul Caster. We have a legendary human 1/1 for 2. At the beginning of your end step, if you control no creatures with Decayed, create a 2/2 Decayed with a zombie with Decayed. So again, great ways to sack creatures and get extra value. You could just throw it under a bus and get trades if they're like not super far ahead, which they won't be on 2. If you're on the play and you're doing this, that seems great. You play this on 2, you just get 3 power on board. They're on the draw. They likely don't have a 2-drop. You just attack and you just do it again. Seems fine.
Yeah, this is a good card. It just lets you freely attack with that zombie token if you only have one of them anyway, because why not? You're just going to get a new one.
I feel like for a rare, it's not super impactful on its own. If we have ways to give them death touch and things, it's going to be good, but not being able to generate more than one at a time is kind of not great.
Yeah, it's still pretty nice with any sort of sacrifice effect, right? You get one, you sack it for some value, and then you get another one at the end of your turn.
On its own, though, as like a self-contained card, it's very underwhelming as a rare. Like, I could see almost seeing this on an uncommon and not being like, what the fuck?
This thing would be terrifying as an uncommon. Yeah.
Without any synergy to assist it?
I sure, but I mean, all these zombie decay tokens are terrible without synergies to assist them.
But a lot of them are just...
The whole mechanic is pretty bad without synergy.
But that's the thing. The more synergy you have, this thing isn't going to be doing anything. It's just a 2-mana 1/1 at that point, right? So like you actually get punished for having decayed zombie synergies. The only way you're really going to get paid off for this is if you only have a few and good ways to use them, which I think is going to be kind of not great. This feels a bit more constructed to me when you have like reliable ways to use those and be generating more. Maybe that's just me. I feel at a certain point you're just like going to be blanked by a 3/3 and it just is a 2-mana 1/1. 2-mana 3/3, I guess, because you get the other dude on board, but...
Yeah, I agree, but I think if we're going down that road, we need to revise downward a whole lot of cards we've done already.
I mean, most of them, like the counterspell that you like that made a thing. Like it already 1-for-1, right? Removed their card with the counter and then made this like free bonus. Whereas without a lot of assistance, this feels like a 2-mana 3/3, right? If you have no sack outlets and they play a 3-drop 3/3, then what? It's just without anything else, it's one of the least, most underwhelming rares that we see.
Okay.
Unless you have like death touch or reliable ways to sack it, I can't really see a whole lot of other purpose for it. zombie synergies. If you've got Champion of the Perished, another rare, then you can just throw it into a, you know, wood chipper, and sure, then you're getting like more synergy. But like, that's really the Champion of the Parish, I think, at that point. But okay.
Well, yeah, that is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in love with this card. I think it's like a 3/5.
Okay, it's interesting. I don't think it's any different than that, but
yeah, and most rares we're seeing I think are just better. I definitely wasn't arguing that it was unplayable, just that it's very unexciting for a rare. Gerund, Corrupted Bishop, 3 mana, 2/3. When it enters the battlefield or another non-token human you control dies, lose 1 life, and create a 1/1 white human token. Okay, some go wide stuff. Pay 2 mana. Target human you control gains lifelink until end of turn. At the beginning of your end step, if you have exactly 13 life, you may pay 6. If you do, transform this. It's very specific. And then it becomes a 6/6 Trample Lifelinker. Sacrifice another creature, draw a card, which you made a bunch of sack fodder on the previous side, which is cute. Good base stats. This card seems good.
Yeah, it's just an interesting card. It's going to be hard to transform, obviously. But if you can, it's great.
Claudiness is saying, I forgot flying. I called it Flample, Flample, whatever. Which is just a flying trampler, which is always just absurd nonsense.
Who doesn't love a good Flample?
Flample is absurd.
Yeah, I think the card's good. I mean, if you can't transform it, it is going to be pretty difficult to transform, though.
It is definitely going to be good. But the question is it good without transforming it? Whenever it enters the battlefield or something else, lose a life, get a 1/1. That seems fine to me. And then you can pay 2 to give a human you control lifelink, so it kind of self-corrects that life drain. Yeah, I like it. I think it's good on its own without being transformed. And then sometimes you like get to, and then you become all powerful genie and you're fine. What do you think rating wise?
This is like a 3/5.
Okay. I might be a little bit higher on it. Um, 3/5. Well, I mean, it's going to depend on the synergy of the deck. It's probably a 3/5 or a 4. I feel like there's so many humans. It by itself is a 3 mana 3/4 minus a life, and then for each human you play, it does the thing and like fix it. Yeah, I like this card. I think I should give it a 4.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think it's probably very good in like black-white, for example.
Yes. But also, a lot of the other things we saw were humans on the one side and then turn into spirits in like blue, or I'm assuming even green is going to have like werewolves that are human on one side and flip into a werewolf.
That's true.
So I think there's going to be humans just all about the set.
Yeah, there are going to be. There definitely will be in every color for sure.
All right, we're just back-to-back rares and mythics over here, guys. Lord of the Forsaken, 6 mana Flampler for 6 mana, 6/6, which is huge. Again, pay 1, sacrifice another creature, target creature mills 3 cards. Pay 1 life, add colorless mana only to cast spells from your graveyard. So the mill yourself stuff is, you know, more limited or more constructed, I feel like. Unless you've got those strong synergies, or if you have Demon Dog, kind of cute, you could just like mill the shit out of them. Or late in the game, you could also just dump 6 black mana and mill somebody out. That's not going to be unrealistic. 3 mil for 1 life is a lot, actually, or for 1 mana is a lot, right?
Yeah, as long as you have those particularly decayed tokens to sacrifice.
Yeah, you definitely have to have some sort of token generation, but it works really well with your underwhelming rare.
Yeah, and it's Works well with all the stuff that makes decay tokens. Yeah, especially that one because it just keeps.
Because you can keep doing it, right? Yeah, it like rewards you for removing it each time. I like that a fair amount. I mean, let's be honest. If you have 3 turns to mill them with a 6/6 Flampler, you're probably not going to care about milling them out, but it's possible. Maybe they have a 7/7 trample flyer.
Yeah, you're really judging this card just as a 6-mana 6/6 flying trampler.
Definitely.
With, with some other upside, certainly, but the rest of it is relatively unimportant compared to the French vanilla part of the card.
Right? I mean, this card is going to win the game if left unanswered. It's just so big.
Yeah.
And it's got some nice flexibility. You can get some extra mana, you can mill someone out, you can mill yourself out, which can turn into card draw in the right situation with flashback and stuff. Is this just a 4/5?
Yeah.
I feel like it's close to a 5, but it leaves no lasting thing on the board.
Yep, exactly.
If it doesn't, if it gets removed right away, you do nothing, which feels bad.
Yep, agreed.
All right, Mask of Gristle, guys, another rare, 3 mana. Is there just more rares in this color? What's happening?
I think we just didn't see any
right
at the beginning.
Legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature has flying and lifelink. Ooh, I like those 2 text keywords there. Whenever equipped creature dies, you may pay X, where X is its power. If you do, draw X cards. What in the Jiminy Fudge Sickles?
Yeah, this card's really good. It's expensive and it's equipment that does not bump power, but that's far less relevant when you're giving things flying to get through anyway.
Chat just said Flylink. Love it. Yeah, this card is fantastic. I love this. And it's equipment. I will play, what was you see white enchantments that do something similar to this, where you give it lifelink and flying, +1/+1 or whatever, or flying, lifelink, and vigilance. But then you risk getting 2 for 1, but that's usually okay because it's super powerful. This just makes all of your creatures do it.
Yeah, no, this card's great.
It's going to be much better in creature-based decks, of course.
Yep.
A blue-black control deck will be far less excited about this, but it still replaces all of the cards that they, want to be drawing. So this is good in any deck. Is this a 5?
I think so, because it's really nice with decayed zombies, right? You equip them, attack, gain 2 life, and then they could die at the end of combat, so you pay that 2 life and you just try to draw 2 cards.
And it's going to be really hard to remove this. People are going to be main decking potentially equipment removal or something like that, but artifacts are hard to remove, and I don't see there's 4 artifacts in the set, so that's not going to be something we see a ton of in best of 1 play. I mean, there was the 3/1 white card, the 3/1 white human that could potentially kill this, but it's just so minor, and it turns all of your creatures into big scary flying threats with Flylink that then replace themselves if dealt with. I love it. 10 out of 10. This is our first 5 of the set?
Yeah.
Jeez. On an equipment? Wow. That's weird.
Yep. Though the next card might be another 5.
All right. The creepiest art in all the land. The Meat Massacre. Black, and X. When the Meat Massacre enters the battlefield, each creature gets neg-X until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain a life. So, seems great.
Yeah, it's a controllable board wrath.
Yeah, it's a bounceable board wrath.
Yep,
and then has lasting effect on the board. Oh, is fine too. Great. You could also cast it for nothing if you just happen to be the aggressor and you're just okay, well, you can block all my stuff and then you die anyway to the triggers on this. That's super flexible.
It puts them in this awkward spot when you attack with any of the cards that trigger on if the opponent lost life this turn, because they either don't block and lose life, or they block and probably kill something and lose life.
Yeah, so if you're ahead in the situation, which is something you never really see in a board clear, is that it has some sort of flexible board use, where it's if you're ahead and you draw it, okay, fine, you're ahead, that's fine, I wish it was something else, but it's always nice to have. This is something, which is really nice.
Yeah, and you can use it as a controlled -2/-2 after combat to kill off some things, or while keeping some of your stuff alive. It's so flexible. So I just think this is another 5.
Agreed. Our only 2 5s are in black. Black removal is premium. Black is shaping up to be the best color so far. Morbid Opportunist, 3 mana, 1/3. Whenever one or more other creatures die, draw a card. It triggers only once. It doesn't say creatures you control. So this is freaking insane. I love this card. It's going to force them to use their premium removal on your 3-drop uncommon, just leaving the door wide open for your giant 6/6 tramplers that they can no longer deal with. And if you play this after one or immediately, then they have to choose between the 2. And if they kill your big things, they replace themselves, which is amazing. I love this card. I'm always running it, never cutting it.
Yeah, we saw this card in it was Original Conspiracy, Death Reap Ritual on an enchantment, 2 black and a green, that had the same ability. It triggered on end step instead of triggering on whenever it happened. But now you got a body with it, so it's easier to remove, but it's cheaper, it's single color. And that card was great. I think this will be great as well.
How great? 3/5 or 4?
I think 3/5. It's still, the body's not good. It's a body, which is nice. And then with all the removal we're seeing, I'd actually almost rather have this on like an enchantment, but it does force them to spend the removal on this.
Yeah. Or if it's like played not on turn 3, there's just a good chance that you had something already better on board when you played this, and it just puts them in a really difficult situation.
Sure.
Essentially protecting your better thing that's already on the board from their top decked removal. Or the removal that they needed one more turn to get enough mana to play, or whatever the case may be. I like it. Yeah, 3/5 or 4, depending on... I also love that it says any. You could play it, kill their thing, and then draw cards. Replaces all of your removal. All right. I haven't been this high on a black in a long time. Right? Like, that's just not normally... Black's always good, but I've never been like actively excited about any of the like synergies and stuff. This is really fun.
Yeah, I agreed.
All right. More Krut. Behemoth, a 5 mana 7/6 has an additional cost to cast this, sacrifice a creature, or pay 2. And it has Menace. Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah, 7 mana for a 7/6 Menace is a lot, but you would consider playing that, if you didn't have other huge drops. But if you had to play it for 5 and pitching a token, sure.
Yeah. I mean, even casting this for 8, right? Wait, 5, 7, it's late. For some reason I thought it cost 6. Yeah, even casting it for that is fine when you're that late in the game. A 7/6 Menacer is pretty good.
Yeah, being able to get and sacrifice a creature in this set is sometimes a real cost. Sometimes like a meh cost if you're getting rid of like a decayed token. Sometimes it's actively a good thing with disturb cards.
Yeah, you just get some fine value and a huge beater. And on 5, this is going to close out a ton of games if left unanswered. If you follow it up with a removal spell and they can't block it, game over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this. Is this a 3/5?
I think it is.
It's going to be lower value in low blue-black control decks, but much higher in like black-white synergies, even a lot of blue, like had a lot of, counter target spell, make a zombie dude, right? So even if you're in blue-black control, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have like throwaway tokens.
Sure.
This set's all about it. Necrosynthesis. It is a card with a lot of text. Your turn, Yanks.
1 and a black for an aura. Enchant creature. Enchant creature has whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. When an enchanted creature dies, look at the top X cards of your library where X is its power. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest at the bottom of your library. So it's got the usual risks of every aura, right? It get 2 for 1, especially if they do it in response. At least though, the last part mitigates the 2 for 1 by replacing itself.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't happen in response. Or deal with like a bounce spell.
Yes, bounce spells are a little tricky here. We didn't see creatures that had bounce spells attached to them like we typically do in blue. There's usually like a one of, but we did see 2 independent bounce spells, which is also uncommon. Like that doesn't usually happen. So it is a little bit more scary. I will say like doing it in response is a little less important because this isn't the sort of card that you're going to be doing to like gotcha on your turn, like +2/+2 and first strike or something like that, where you have to do it to maximize value on a combat step that turn. Whereas this, I feel like when you play it, you kind of want to wait a really long time until your board state's developed, and you can just like wait around. If you feel like they've got the open mana and it's likely they've been holding on to this combat trick, they've been counting on their hands for 3 turns for like attacks, then just wait, right? Like you can kind of play around that effect a little bit, I think, because this one doesn't benefit you from having to rush it out.
Yeah, one other, I guess, thing to risk on this card is because the last clause relies on the creature's power. If it dies to a -X effect, and that makes its power 0, it will not replace itself.
Yeah, so that black -5/-5 thing is pretty interesting here, but it's a rare.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah. Not necessarily the most important thing, but could be relevant. And there is a common -X spell that we'll see later on in black.
This will be good if you've got those sack outlets and lots of zombie generation. The average deck, pretty minor, like a 2.
Yeah, I think it's a 2.
I don't love aura spells without like strong ways to like make them work well.
Yeah, especially considering ones that need to stay on the field for a while to get a lot of value.
Target opponent discards 2 spells, create a zombie decayed token for 3 mana. Pretty common. We'll see this with like do nothing, so the decayed zombie is just a bonus, and there's a lot of synergies with this. Lose 2 cards, in 2 more turns, I'm going to make a 7/6 Menacer, and what are you going to do about it? Nothing, so you have no freaking cards left. Fantastic. I like this more in this format than I typically do. Oftentimes I'll play these or board them in when my opponent has like a slower, grindier deck, but this is going to be better main deck in best of 1 because our opponents are flashing things back. They're using their disturb cards, so they have just more cards in their hand because they're using their resources to mess with other things. So this will just be good for longer.
So that's interesting. So we were both thinking on the same wavelength, but taking a complete opposite tack. I actually like this less because of the same exact thing. Because of disturb and flashback, that they can just choose to discard those cards and get value out of it that way.
That's true, but a lot of the cards were like, you're still having to remove those cards with disturbed or trade with them. Like, the front half is pretty relevant. That's what makes the disturb cards so good, is usually you're getting possible 2-for-1 value out of it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but instead of getting like a full 2-for-1 that these Mind Rock cards are, now you're getting like kind of a 1-for-1.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a card and a disturbed card, which at that case it's a 1.5.
Yeah, I just interesting that we both were thinking on those mechanics and thinking about them completely opposite ways.
For me, these sort of effects are better to me the longer my opponent has cards in their hand. And that's just kind of where I was going with it. But yeah, you're right. Like, discarding cards is less painful for an opponent possibly in this format if you're discarding a flashback spell or something. Yeah. But again, I think that their first flashback spell is either drawing them cards or removing a creature. So like, I'm still getting to keep my card that they didn't use the initial cast on, so I'm still happy with it.
Yeah, I don't think it's unplayable. I just think it's probably, I think those 2 scenarios in my mind kind of average out. And awesome. It's just kind of like the same as it is in most formats.
What do you have it at?
I have this at like basically like a 2/5,
okay.
But definitely, but kind of like opt in the sense that it's one of those that tends to get cut a lot.
Yeah, I have it at a 3, but again, is one of the things that tend to get cut a lot. All right. In Novice Occultist, 2 mana, 1/2. Whenever Novice Occultist dies, you draw a card and lose a life. This is very underwhelming. It's just sack fodder that replaces itself, basically. Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's which is nice. But with the amount of zombie tokens we're seeing, I'm not sure we need to spend a whole card on sack fodder.
I agree. I mean, the fact that it's replacing itself, if you've got some pretty premium stuff, I mean, draw a card is really, really good here. And the better your sack payoffs are, the better this will be. I could definitely see running this, but the average deck is going to be way less excited about it because the sack abilities are pretty minor and you're only going to be having 1 or 2 of them. So I'd much rather just sack something that is good on its own. You know, like a medium creature, my normal 2-drops, my bears, whatever. As opposed to having this who's just likely going to chump and redraw itself most of the time. So yeah, this is kind of situational. Kind of a split card, don't you think? I can almost see a deck where I want 4 of these.
Yeah, the more sack outlets you have definitely does bump this rating, but I just kind of have it like as a 2. I'll play it, probably won't be happy about it. And occasionally there's a deck that'll want it.
All right. Olivia's Midnight Ambush. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. If it's night, the creature gets -13/-13 until end of turn. For 2 mana at instant speed. I like that. Instant speed is cute. Night may or may not be relevant, so let's just kind of say that this is on average just, you know, 2 mana, 2/2. If your deck has a lot of ways to control night and day itself, then it's great. But if you don't, you're kind of relying on your opponent, so kind of situational. But I think instant speed 2 mana -2/-2 is pretty spicy.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to play this set for a while to see how often games tend to be, you know, day or night.
But like we were saying before, like when we were looking at white and blue, there's a lot of creatures that are under 2 toughness. A lot of flyers, a lot of spirits.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any scenario where you don't play this card. I think that'll depend on whether or not it's, you know, just how good it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, any deck, even without a ton, I'm still willing to play more than 1 of these.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
3?
Yeah, 3, and I'm kind of leaning towards 3/5 because of how easy it is to go from day to night. All you have to do is just not cast something.
Yeah, well, you have to have something that activates it originally. And I'm just saying, like, if you don't have that. That's the catch. Yeah,
that is the catch. Somebody has to activate it.
So I don't really care about how easy it is to go night into day. I'm more concerned about whether or not we are turning it into a night-day game state.
Yeah, yep. And that's what I'm not sure. That's what we'll have to figure out as we play.
All right.
How often that comes up.
Rotten Reunion, 1 mana instant speed, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard, create a 2/2 with Decayed, and it has flashback. So you're possibly able to just get card advantage by removing 2 flashback or whatever cards and making 2 dudes. This is just good value. I mean, I think this is a sideboard card because a lot of decks aren't going to have this in any meaningful way, so you're basically removing something bad or that's not relevant to make 2 kind of bad and not relevant cards often for creatures. But with sack outlets, this is good, and, you know, the more interaction your opponent has with the graveyard, the better this is.
Yeah, I think it's a sideboard card, but a reasonable, like, bottom end playable for best of 1. Because there are enough decks that'll have it, plus enough times your deck will want the fodder, that between those 2 effects, it's probably worth sticking in as a card you can cut, but you're not upset to play either.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's enough situations, enough removal spells, enough creatures that all kind of want a sacrifice. So likely you're going to have a use for the one side of this card. But it's going to be something you're going to cut more often just because I think the true value in this is just getting the card advantage by messing up your opponent's yard. So
yeah, true.
Probably just a 1/2 for a 23rd playable card, but whatever. It's fine. All right, I'm going to let you do this one while I move it.
Shady Traveler is 2 and a black for a 2/3 human werewolf with menace and daybound. And the backside, it's a 4/4 menace with nightbound. So kind of a vanilla werewolf, I mean, with menace. Fine, I mean, 3 mana, 2/3 on the front side is, with menace is okay. But sometimes you're getting a 3 mana, 4/4 menace. Obviously can change back and forth. I'm fine with this card. It's not exciting, but it's a decent playable.
I mean, 2/3s for 3 with a keyword on them, I start to like get a little bit more excited. And menace is definitely a good one to have, especially with instants that give death touch and things in this format, and it's got 2 toughness. Or, I'm sorry, 2 attack power. So like you're gonna get a 2 for 1 out of that. Possible. I guess it's a 2 for 2, but definitely huge trade ups. There's a lot of flexibility here, and if you're turning it into a 4/4 menacer, it's really good value for 3 mana. Holy smokes! It's a good curve filler that is above average that then turns better later, and I like that.
Yep,
so this is like a 3.
Yeah, I think it's a 3.
And that's if you don't have any other werewolf synergies.
True.
All right, so now we're doing Siege Zombie, a 2 mana 2/2, tap 3 untapped creatures you control. Each opponent loses a life. Ooh, a little extra reach for those zombies you can't attack with without losing all of your like value. So
we've seen a couple.
Go ahead.
We've seen a couple of these tap 3 untapped creatures you control cards.
It seems a whole cycle.
Yeah, and the first couple times we saw them, they kind of seemed terrible, but now I feel like every black deck is going to have 75 decay tokens on at all times.
See, I was fine with them right out of the gate because of all the damn human tokens. I like that this particular one removes the downside to the decayed tokens, in that part of the reason why you amass them, you can't attack because you're throwing a bunch of them into a wood chipper, and then the rest go away after you get a little chip damage in, and then they just crack you back for too much. But I like the idea of like amassing these tokens that are essentially weak and you can't get good attacks, but if your opponent outright attacks you, does leave them vulnerable because 5 zombie tokens, even though they die at the end of turn, is still a shit ton of damage. So you're putting your opponent in a situation where they can't attack, but you can't attack, but then you get this like nice little reach. And it's a bear on its own. This card is fantastic for limited.
Yeah, I think this card's very good.
I mean, for a common bear, I like this a ton. It's going to require some synergy, but black-white zombie humans, holy shit, you're going to drain people out real fast. I like this card. It's like a 3, maybe a 3/5 with more synergy. Got some solid upside.
Yeah, I think you still like this. You like this more than I do. I think I'm like 2/5 to a 3.
It's okay. You're allowed to be wrong. I also run decks with a lot more creatures than you do. In a deck with 6 creatures, this is not doing anything.
I feel like I'm going to like accidentally end up with like 30 tokens the way this set looks.
You're going to run 7 of those counter spells that make zombies. I feel like you would be all about this win condition. Because you can't attack with those zombies. What are you going to do with them?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm going to use the blue one to tap things down to make them not do things.
All right, we're getting close, guys. We're almost there. A couple more cards. Slaughter Specialist, a 2 mana 3/3 vampire warrior. That when it enters the battlefield, each opponent creates a +1 human. Wait, okay, that's fine. I mean, it is really good, so that's fair. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Yeah, that seems fine.
Yeah, I think this card's really good. You generally don't care about giving them a 1/1 if you're getting a 3/3 for 2. Yep. And it's something that can chump block this and make it bigger.
Yep. Especially if you have any like ways to protect this, if they like double block it in some way. This is super aggressive. This is, if you start to have a lot of those like common neg2 removal spells, this is going to get out of hand very, very quickly, and you're gonna have to have some premium removal to get rid of it. I like this card a fair amount.
Yeah, I do too. I think this is not a spectacular card, but above rate, solid, early threat.
Yeah, I think this is like a 3/5. I don't give it any higher. It can win games if left undealt, but it doesn't. It gives them a 1/1, so it gives them something on the board. If they remove it right away, it is only a positive for them. So I don't think it's going to be quite as good in the average game, but I think it's going to be very powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, 3/5. Moving on. Stormkirk Blood Thief, 3 mana 2/2 at the beginning of your end step. If an opponent lost life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Okay, so good with the like little bat tokens and things that we've seen. It's cute. I like her little Christmas tree ornaments.
We've seen some drain effects. That Siege Zombie we just saw. some ways to make sure that they're going to lose some life, and it lets you put the counter on any vampire you have.
Oh, I didn't even read it that way. Great. Yeah, that's fine.
So it can spread it around.
At the beginning of your end, all you have to do is hit them once, and you can actually play this post-combat as well.
Yep.
So that way they don't know that trigger is happening. So you can just like bluff them, attack your 1/3 into their 2/2. They're going to take it. This becomes a better than rate 3/3 for 3 for black, which is fine with a relevant card text, and it just gets worse from there. So this card's like a 3. More if you have vampire synergies.
Yeah.
Or bats.
Or vampire bats.
Vampire bats. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so 3 with upside. Agreed?
Yep, agreed.
Fantastic. Oh, that's a lot of text. Go ahead.
Tainted Adversary, the black one in this 2-drop mythic cycle. 2 mana, 2/3 zombie with Death Touch. Enters the battlefield and you pay 2 in a black any number of times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, put that many counters, +1/+1 counters on Tainted Adversary, then create twice that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed. So you got a 2 mana 2/3 Death Touch, a 5 mana 3/4 Death Touch with 2 2/2 zombies. Keep scaling up like that.
Yeah, that's a lot. I love these cards that are just. I know it's a mythic, but like, if you play it on turn 2, it's not that scary. But like, it gets better. It comes back. It does some stuff. Anytime your deck is getting smoother by having curve-filling cards get better over the long term, I'm a happy camper. It makes for fun, interactive Magic that's not like bomb-oriented. Like, yeah, kill this dragon now or die. This doesn't feel like that, but it's still just so good, and it's increasing the power level of your deck like all throughout the game because it doesn't matter when you draw this. I love it.
I think the card's very good. I'm a little disappointed that this is this mythic entry just because it feels kind of boring. I don't know, the white and blue ones seem to be a little more interesting. This is just double the tokens. Like they ran out of ideas. But it's certainly powerful.
Yeah, I kind of like it seems like he's kind of piratey, so like he's got like a crew. Yep. So it seems a little flavorful, but I don't know. I'm getting more and more excited with all of the zombies, with all the stuff we can do with them and things we can interact, like tap them and drain for a bajillion. Seems great. Yeah, I agree. This is probably not the most powerful of this cycle, but still a great card. I'm still first picking this.
Oh yeah, it's very strong.
What are you thinking score wise?
Like a 4.
Ah, yay, me too. All right, we're almost there, guys. Last one. This is definitely a reprint. I recognize the art. Vampire Interloper, 2 mana, 2/1 flying. Interloper cannot block. This is just fine. It's going to make your other vampire chick with Christmas lights pretty good. Relevant creature type. It actually 2 mana, 2 power evasive creature can just kill somebody. Sometimes they just can't answer it.
Yeah, we see these flyers sometimes in blue, sometimes in black that can't block, that are 2/1s or have other restrictions.
3?
They're always pretty good.
3?
I think I've got it as 2/5, but it could be a 3.
I'm seeing a lot of cards in black that says if your opponent's lost life this turn, and this seems like a premium candidate for that to enable those and the creature type combined. That's between those two things. I gave it an extra like half point.
Yeah, that is true. Those are both relevant.
Awesome. I think that's it, guys.
I think there's one more.
Oh, fudge sickles! It's a multicolor card or multi-side card. Go ahead.
We got the Vengeful Strangler, 1 in a black. For a 2/1 human rogue, Vengeful Strangler can't block. When it dies, returns to the battlefield transformed under your control, attached to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. That's because it comes back as Strangling Grasp, an aura that enchants creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. And at the beginning of your upkeep, enchanted permanence controller sacrifices a non-land permanent and loses a life.
Okay, so we've seen something like this before, where you put it on the creature you want them to kill. They can kill some smaller things that turn each time to save their one thing, but ultimately that's just going to keep chipping away at their board, right?
Yeah.
Is the way I'm reading this. So it's just a thing. When it dies, return to the battlefield as a removal spell. It's a 2-drop, which is fine. And again, it's just going to make it so that way their board dwindles away, or it kills its best thing. It's a 2-for-1 if it trades, which a 2-powered minion is likely to trade for something in this format because there's so many little puny things. A lot of them will come back through Disturbed or whatever the case may be, but that's great. This seems fine.
Yeah, 2 mana, 2/1 that doubles as a removal spell. I mean, they do get a little bit of choice, which you never want to give your opponents too many choices, but you know, it's neither choice is good.
Yeah, this is really bad when you're really far behind, but if you're at like even, or if you're playing this early in the game, it's going to be a huge shift in your favor, and I love that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, terrible top deck, but otherwise pretty good.
What do you think in score-wise?
This is a 2/5 only because you don't have any real way to control making this thing die outside of finding sacrifice outlets because it can't block.
That's true, but also nothing can chump bounce block it really. I mean, there's like an 0/4, but for the most part, like a lot of times, like a 1/3 or something will just bounce on it. So like they could take 2 forever. I'm probably okay with that too if I'm playing this on turn. I agree. It's pretty situational, but like I'm not cutting this card probably.
No, I agree. I'm not either.
So I'm giving it a 3, I think.
That's fair.
All right, guys. That is it, right? There's no more double. Okay, cool. That's it for black. So we are all done with this set review for this particular color. Make sure you guys leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think as far as what we got right, what we got wrong. I'm sorry these are a little bit longer than they have been previously, but there is just a lot to cover. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the red colors. Have a good night, guys. Be safe. Thanks for watching. I'd like to give a special thank you to those of you who have signed up for our Patreon. I couldn't make this content without you. Also to Cool Stuff Inc. and KMC Sleeves for supporting the channel as well. Definitely check them out and use our discount codes to support the channel.